The boy?
Yeah. And the girl is, I think, 24 there.
The girl is the eldest
Yeah.
at 24. Then there's a
boy around
boy
21.
22.
21, 22. Na unajua hata si kumbukagi hizo vitu.
21, 22. Then
there's another girl which is about 18, and the last one is 14.
But mama anakaa mdogo sana.
Ni mwili tu, ni mtu atizi.
Mdogo.
Anakaa mdogo lakini ni chuma ya kitambo.
Chuma ya kitambo. Watu wakubwa bana.
Yeah.
Sisi tuko 10. 10 kids.
Mko?
10 kids.
Mko 10 kids? Yeah. I mean, even me, my mother had 10 of us. So mi ushangaa mbona families wa sahii watu wataki kupata 6-7 kids. Watu wananiambia ati hata ukienda Amerika wazungu sije. I'm like, are you kidding me? I have friends in the US who have 8 kids.
Stand by. Hello, good evening and welcome to the Insight Special Edition where we bring you news. Of course, we bring you related to your decision 2022. We have had an election and of course the results are streaming. Of course, those who are ahead. IBC has announced presidential results according to certain polling stations, of course, as they continue tallying. And we also have members of National Assemblies being announced. And of course, these results are still streaming on. We still have a lot to discuss here concerning the results that are just being streamed by the IBC. They have not yet announced the winner for the presidential contest because they're waiting for Form 34As physically. That is according to the Constitution. Of course, they have around 7 days to give us the winner. Well, as that happens and as all these things unfolds, well, we are here tonight to discuss some of the happenings around this election 2022. And of course, I have with me George Ndawa. George Ndawa is a guest on my show tonight. Well, George Ndawa is a political commentator as we have known him. George Ndawa, welcome once again to the Insight Special Edition, where we are discussing about the elections, the decisions of the people generally. My question is, generally, what is your assessment so far, where we have come from and where we are generally in the elections? What is your assessment generally?
I want to thank you so much, Eugene, for hosting me today. And our viewers, we want to just say that you know this with me, that the general assessment of our elections this time, number one, is that it's been so good in the sense that comparing with the previous elections, this time round, our election has been so peaceful that even though there could be several hitches here and there, but there is there is a good flow and feeling that there is, number one, no violence. I've not seen so many complaints from the aspirants. That would warrant maybe going to the courts. So this proves to me that Kenyans have conducted themselves so well, and another factor is that I really appreciate the security system. Our police have conducted themselves with a lot of decorum, and they have not initiated any fights like previous times where a small misunderstanding, there would be tear gas in where people are, that would lead to chaos. So I really appreciate the IBC also for conducting it in a very good manner that doesn't bring some flaring tempers.
Well, it's quite interesting, but of course, even as you continue the elections, till now we have not had the presidential elections being announced. We have seen so many bloggers from both sides of the coalition, both the Azimio and Kenya Kwanza, announcing, giving their results, what they think actually is right. That is according to them. But now the question is, us having, the IBC having taken a long time, it's quite long considered to the other times that we have seen, even elections being, the results being announced as early as after the following day after the elections or so, or even some at nights. So it leads to a tedious elections, because the same returning officers, what the IEBC is waiting for is that they're waiting for the polling, the tallying, or the physical 34A results. But now the question is, we get people from Turkana have to all come to Bomas of Kenya for them to do what? To announce the results. So my question is, this election being tedious, how can we do it? What is your view around it? Us having a very tedious election exercise?
Well, according to the norms, you know, this is our second day of tallying, which in normal circumstances, if we have not changed from our usuals, then we are still within the time. And also, I think they gave IEBC, according to the law, 7 days to announce the winner of the presidential post. But now, if we want to generally look at it, we believe that we have grown, in fact, to a good extent where we should be announcing our presidential winner today or even last night. Were it that we are conforming with the current technology, where the space is so good enough that, can you imagine, without too much securities, we only need a password to send a lot of money to people through our phones. So how comes we have not thought of how we can do our presidential tallying? Because, you know, our very biggest concern in election is the presidential position. Why haven't we, with all the budget that we have, why haven't we thought about how we can do our presidential election through even mobile phones, where somebody can do it from where he or she is, so that we don't have to wait for Form 34A? Because, I mean, from the ages, from all those years we started voting, we have been ferrying Form 34A from all corners of the country to Nairobi. Why would we still do it today? We need to graduate from that and get a better way of conducting our election.
But is that even realistic of us having to elect our leaders through the phones? But again, me asking you on the same note, us having, you're talking about the presidential election contest being being important. Is it like, what is only important? You know, not seeing national assemblies affecting the leadership of this country? Because I believe the leadership of the country is not just based on who becomes the president, but even those people who are going to be elected around him, the MCAs, the governor position, the National Assembly leaders, they're part of the work to do in building our nation, Kenya. Why do you think that it is most important than the presidential elections? And do you think that then we can do them, hold the elections on different days?
The reason why I think presidential is so crucial for us is now, if we look at the Constitution, the president is a symbol of national unity. That is what our Constitution says. And so then it's the most important office for us. And therefore, we need to have something done. The IBC should begin thinking about our presidential election. And yes, I agree with you. I mean, having come from an election where we were doing close to, I think it was only 3 positions, where we were having a councillor, the president and MPs, and now we are doing 6 of them. It's quite a big burdening load to the voter. And I think if you look at the trends outside Kenya in the international community, we can borrow a leaf from other countries where a presidential election is done way separately from every other election, so that our concentration cannot be mixed with these other ones, and therefore it will be easier for the voter, and at the same time it will be easier for IEBC to do the counting and tallying. So that's why I think it is most important for us.
I'd love us to look at some aspect, something that actually happened during these elections, and that is the big misses. When I say the big misses, I mean the big names that actually were not re-elected to their positions. And this actually is very conspicuous in Mount Kenya. Now, this begs the question, why do you think that we have had so many big names? Of course, even some of them have conceded defeat. Why do you think we have these big misses?
You know, our electoral system is, our electioneering elections is usually tribal. And so any person, any name that would go against the will of the tribe would actually fall down, regardless of how big you are. Even if you are a president and you are vying for a presidency, and you're not going according to the will of your tribe, definitely you will fall. That is number one factor of why big names are falling, and especially if you look at Mount Kenya, all those big names, they were very loved and revered in their constituencies and region. But since they went against the will of the community, there is no way they were going to come back.
What do you mean by saying they went against the will of the community?
Well, in the mountain region, all those who were flawed, they were supporting Azimio. And Azimio doesn't have a big name in Mount Kenya right now. So it had to pull them down. But also there is one thing that I also think is happening right now within our campaign seasons. If you don't align yourself with the party, you know, parties are also playing a very big role in the elections. So some of those people who didn't go by their parties and went even independent and something like that, they never made it back. Also, people are beginning to start thinking that their wills are not reflected within their party system, because the party leaders have ignored the will of the people. At some point, you find that a party like, let me say, ODM, somebody would be very strong on the ground and is coming up. But now, since this person has not been popular with the party stalwarts, there would be suggestions by the party leaders that, oh, please step down for so and so that we will give you a job. So somehow these are also factors that are affecting our election systems. Yeah.
Okay. You've talked about Mount Kenya denying those who are close to President Uhuru Kenyatta, those who actually never, who are with Azimio la Umoja. But there's a question that those who are with Azimio la Umoja were with President Uhuru Kenyatta. What is the power of this? We believe that, the president comes from Mount Kenya. Yet Uhuru, is there like, or are they doing that to punish Uhuru? Because some of them are with William Ruto, who is now the deputy president. And now that even begs the question that who is then the what? The spokesperson for the Mount Kenya.
You know, for the past, strongly for the past 4 years, or rather 5 years, there is a narrative that has been spread against President Uhuru Kenyatta. And unfortunately, the president hasn't come out strongly also to defend himself in that same very space. So I know, and this has been said several times, that when a lie is repeated so many times, it becomes a truth, and especially if nobody comes to demystify that this is a lie, and this is the big stand against this lie. If nobody comes to challenge it, that lie will actually be a truth to the society that is listening to it continuously. For the past 4 years, the DP has been with the people around him from Mount Kenya. They have pushed a narrative against Uhuru Kenyatta. And Uhuru Kenyatta has played a good guy and has not stood out to defend himself. So these lies have become realities and all truth in the faces of Mount Kenya.
So do you believe actually that President Uhuru Kenyatta is hated in his backyard?
He's actually not really hated, but he's rejected by a majority. He came out only the last week. He did, I can say strongly that he has always spoken against these lies, maybe twice, in 2 weeks. One of the weeks was earlier when he went to the media and spoke in the mother tongue and spoke to the people. But then after that, he didn't come out again to defend himself. He's just coming out again the last week of to election, where he tried to defend himself. But then, you know, the lies had sunk deep in the
when you talk
minds
about
of
lies,
people.
or when you say that the people who are rejected because of him, the leaders who are rejected, is a sign of hate, a rejection to President Uhuru Kenyatta. Why do they hate him? Why should they reject him? Did Uhuru Kenyatta betray them?
You know, there is also a problem that we have had since our pre-colonial times, that there is some tribalistic differences against the Kikuyus and the Luos, which is manifesting between the Odingas and the Kenyattas. So this has been so deeply rooted in the hearts of the Mount Kenyan people, such that if you come in 1 week to differ with what has been deeply rooted in them, it's very hard to unearth in 1 week. You can do that for even 5 years to make an inroad in the hearts of the Mount Kenya people. But just 1 week or 2 weeks will not be enough. So if the president and a few people from Mount Kenya came to support one from the opposite side, which is Raila Amolo Odinga, there is no way it was going to get any support, because these are the same people that for 55 years you have told us of how bad they are not worthy being listened to, and then in 1 or 2 weeks you're coming to defend them and say, hey, wait a minute, now it's not what we have been telling you, and they're just as good as we are. It's not practical. So that is why the people who defended Uhuru and Raila, who went for Raila, it's a feeling that they're defending the same person that in our hearts we have been told that they are very bad people. So that is why it feels a rejection against Uhuru, but actually they are rejecting Raila Amolo Odinga.
Okay. This even begs the question that who is now the Mount Kenya kingpin?
Mount Kenya right now doesn't have a kingpin, because look at it this way. We have 4 presidential contenders who were on the spot. And the first one being Raila Amolo Odinga. Raila Amolo Odinga had a running mate from Mount Kenya. William Samoei Ruto had a running mate from Mount Kenya. Who else? What's his name? Mwaigwa? Mwaure. Waiga Mwaure. Mwaure is a Kikuyu who was vying for presidency. And then we have Wajakoya, whose running mate is a Kikuyu. So balancing this, if you look at all this, you know, number one, the Mount Kenya people didn't have anything to lose in whoever wins the election. If Mwaure won, it's still in Mount Kenya. If Wajakoya won, they still have a running mate who is from Mount Kenya. If Raila or Ruto won, it is the same thing that was going to happen. So for them, if there is any cake that is coming to Mount Kenya, it would come from any formation. So for them, there was no loss in there. Yeah, but then, you know, what I appreciate in the pattern of their vote this time is that in the previous elections, Mount Kenya could vote not less than 80% in all the voting patterns that they have had. But this one, this year, what they have done is they have lost their strength, their energy in the voting pattern, such that right now they are between 57 and 60% of their voting, which means that any opponent, the person that they have been opposing for all those years, have gained entry with a saying that whenever a voter doesn't vote, that not voting is an election of the person that they have been rejecting. Because now the person will be having more power to get into the presidency than it would be when they all vote as per.
Do you believe that this is going to help the Raila Odinga?
100% yes, because if we look at the figures of their 100% voting pattern, it would be way bigger. In fact, right now as we sit here, we would not be talking about wondering who is winning. It would be a clear win for William Samoei Ruto.
Okay, let's talk about the last events before the elections. We had President Uhuru Kenyatta, actually. He had some shows, and actually he has been campaigning for Raila Odinga to the last minute, saying that vote for this person. Even during his last show, he was saying that Kenyans know who I will be voting for. And of course, we know it's Raila Odinga. And he was persuading the Mount Kenya people not to vote for William Samoei Ruto. He wanted them to vote for Raila Amolo Odinga. Yet we're talking about the big misses where those who aligned to the Azimio la Umoja have been kicked out of their positions. Do you believe that there was a power of incumbency, influence in this election, generally and particularly in Mount Kenya? And if there was, then what was the impact or the influence? Was it a positive or a negative?
The power of incumbency in the Mount Kenya voting pattern, to me, it would be here. That looking at the figures that Raila Amolo Odinga have been getting from Mount Kenya, comparing it to what he got today, is very different. because Raila Amolo Odinga has made inroads into Mount Kenya more than he was the 4 times he had made trials into the presidency. So I give this to the campaigns of the sitting president Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, because if it were not him, Raila would have not gotten all that. The second thing is that for those who rejected, who didn't want Raila and did not want to shame the president, they did not go to vote. So those are counted on Raila's advantage and or to the voting pattern disadvantage or advantage, so that the numbers that they used to bring on the table could not be achieved this time. So if I count the 20% that did not vote at this particular time, I will give that to Raila Amolo Odinga. And I give him also plus the other numbers that he that voted to him. So then he has all the advantages that I would say, and look at it also like those that voted William Samoei Ruto, if their figures would be like 40%, then it would be like they divided both Raila and Ruto divided Mount Kenya into equal halves.
How is that so?
I mean, those who didn't vote are 20%, because the previous times they were voting 80%. Right now they have voted like about 60%.
But how sure are you that those people who never voted will have voted for Raila Odinga?
They are not voting is a vote to Raila Odinga. That is what I'm saying. Okay. That they are not voting, it's not for Ruto. Because if they would have voted for Ruto, right now he would have been a clear winner. But they are not voting has given Raila Amolo Odinga the powers of having another bargain for the seat.
Quite interesting. Well, let's look at something that had happened. That is the in Martha Karua's own polling station, where there was the votes that actually Ruto got were more than those that Raila got. And there was this effect of Asimio. You get how Martha Karua used to campaign for Raila Odinga. And this begs the question, was there a Martha effect? Because actually in our own polling stations, we did not see this effect.
What I appreciate with Martha Karua effect in her voting station is that right there, she managed to pull 8,000 votes plus, which you cannot find anywhere else in Mount Kenya. And we cannot find even in the previous voting patterns. That in itself is a big plus to Raila Amolo Odinga, because there is a requirement that in every constituency or in every region or county, there is a percentage that is required for a presidential contender to get, for him to get to presidency. But now, if you don't have these figures that are coming in, however small they are, it's just very important. So however small they are, we needed them to be like that. The other years that Raila Amolo Odinga have been losing, there is a percentage, a very small percentage. I think it would be like 5 or 6% that he was getting from Mount Kenya region. Right now, Raila Amolo Odinga has garnered more than 10% from Mount Kenya, thanks to Martha Karua's appointment to be Raila's running mate. If we take that with Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta's campaign for 1 week, just a 1 week campaign, I believe and I think that this has given Raila Amolo Odinga a lot more strength compared to how it was in the previous years. So I appreciate that a lot.
Okay, this is very interesting, mostly because when Martha Karua has not been elected so much, like the Azimio side has not been given so much votes, even in our own polling station in Central. Therefore, this begs even the question that if they're rejecting Raila Odinga, just as you have said, should now Raila Odinga win this seat? And therefore, it means that Martha Karua will be the most senior politician or leader in the Azimio what? In government, not just in Azimio coalition, but in government generally. Will that make Martha the spokesperson, or will that make her the kingpin of the central Kenya?
Yes. In 2002, Raila Amolo Odinga didn't choose Kibaki to be his running mate. He chose Kibaki to be the front runner. And the whole of Mount Kenya voted as a bloc against Kibaki because they considered Kibaki to be a Raila project. So they never voted him. However, when he got into power, he automatically became the spokesman of the Mount Kenya region by simply ignoring all those who voted him into the office and having the whole Mount Kenya to be the bloc in the government. Even those who campaigned severely called him names, he named them as ministers and ignored the other regions of Mount Kenya, or of the other regions outside Mount Kenya, who brought him into the office. When he was going for the second term in the office, the whole Mount Kenya voted him as a full bloc because now they believed that this is now the man for the region. So if you look at what they did that time, compare it with what is happening right now with Raila Amolo Odinga, if in case Raila Amolo Odinga becomes the president, you will automatically see Mount Kenya rally behind Martha Karua because in their hearts, this is now their strongest and their most powerful politician. So then I say fully yes, that yes, if in case Raila Amolo Odinga will step aside and endorse Martha Karua to be the successor, you will see that Mount Kenya, with their pattern of voting, they will, in fact, to the last standing man, and they will come out even 80% to vote Martha Karua to be their leader.
Well, we're having a conversation on the inside tonight. This is a special edition where we are looking at generally the events around the elections, as the election periods, of course, have ended and polling has begun, tallying, I mean. So we are here, of course, with Mdawa, who is a political commentator at GBS TV, Nairobi, of course. And well, we are going for a short break, but we will be back. We are coming back with more. Of course, you can get us as GBS TV Africa at Jinichi Kwach. 21144 is our SMS line, and you can continue communicating with us. Well, we are going for a short break, but we will be right back.
Everywhere, GBS.
Welcome back to the Inside. Of course, we are here talking matters politics with George Ndawa. George Ndawa, welcome back to the second part of this show. But I have a question for you that in this election, actually, unprecedentedly, we are talking about people conceding defeat in various seats. What do you think about this? Is it the most transparent, or why people conceding defeat, even so many people?
Well, I think looking at the way people voted, apart from a few incidences that I've seen of violence and intimidations, the majority, actually it would be even 98%, was very calm and cool. You would look at how people are queuing and voting. It was so peaceful. And politicians are people who will not keep quiet when things are not wrong. And in most cases with their agents, and the agents are people who are diehards of the people they support. They never raised any concerning issue in the voting system. And so everyone who is conceding, they saw the most transparent and the correct way of voting that they had no way of disputing. Because, I mean, if you dispute, there will be a need for you to bring an evidence to the courts or bring it to the people that are there to help you get your way. But then they looked at how everything happened, and things were so credibly done that nobody would have disputed. So it was genuinely, it was a genuine win to those who won, and even to those who lost, it was a genuine loss. So they had to concede.
Why do you think it was genuine? Why do you think it was credible? Is it because they conceded, or there are some things that happened therein that makes you believe that this election was transparent?
The nullification of 2017 election brought in so obvious and open issues that led to that. And when IEBC was directed by the courts to make corrections, I can see that IEBC corrected almost everything that was supposed to be. And then when we began, when we were almost near to the election, there are issues that the parties also brought, and more so the Azimio side of the divide. They brought some issues to the IEBC for correction, and looking at how the last minute calls for a conversation with the IEBC, they came out and said everything was corrected. So I can see that there was a lot of transparency and credibility to the process, that nobody would come out and say this was wrong and this was biased on my side.
Do you believe there was a goodwill from the government to ensure that this election was transparent?
As a matter of fact, IEBC's meddling or making it hard for election to be credible in the previous elections was basically by the government that interfered in the same. And so right now, and this is also something that I've commended President Uhuru for, because you have had people or politicians say, if there is anything bad, the buck stops with the president. So if there is anything and everything good, it all has to stop with the president. So there was a very good will by the president, Uhuru Kenyatta, and that I would credit him as part of the legacy that he's taking home with.
Wow, quite interesting. But is this also a maturity for Kenyans? Like, are we as Kenyans maturing in our politics?
Exactly. This is something that we are witnessing for the second time. The first time it was in the year 2002 when President Moi distanced himself from the electioneering system. When he saw that Uhuru was beaten, he steered away. And actually one of those people who were in there confessed one time and said, when the team called President Moi and asked him, are you seeing what is happening? The late President Moi said to them, well, I am seeing, and it is what it is. And so you guys, you just have to concede. And they couldn't believe it, but they gathered themselves and conceded. And that was a goodwill by the then sitting president. I'm seeing the same thing happening with the sitting president, Uhuru Kenyatta. This is the greatest maturity that we have ever seen in Africa, not only in Kenya.
Do you think that, or believe, or have reasons to believe that even the president, like the person who is going to lose to be the opposition of Kenya, who is going to lose in this election at the presidential level, is going to concede defeat?
I see him concede because he won't have any grounds to take to the court. You know, this time round, there has been a very big call of people not going to the streets. And whoever goes to the streets will have a very big loss in his political career. Because Kenyans have realized that going to the streets doesn't solve matters. Going to the courts will respect institutions, and any person who doesn't go to the institutions to get a solution will be an antagonist of the highest order in our constitutional system. So there will be no option but to concede.
According to you, you believe, okay, who do you believe is ahead of the other?
I believe that Raila Amolo Odinga is leading, looking at...
Now, let me ask you a question based on what you believe, that Raila is ahead of the other. You wake up tomorrow and be told that Ruto is the president-elect. People have already started celebrating the Azimio ones. Don't you think that will cause chaos?
It will not cause chaos for us in Azimio because, look at it this way, 4 times Raila Amolo Odinga have been winning and have not been getting it. And 4 times we have gone to the streets and we have lost lives. We have come to a realization that an election is not a life and death situation. And we have learned that when you go to the courts, because of the 2017 elections, we know that the courts can be trusted to nullify. If you have the evidence that your person lost credibly, the courts will prove it. We will bring the evidence to the court, and the court will show the people that the powers therein can also nullify any election that is not well conducted. So we believe in the courts right now, and we are ready for it even today.
Wow, interesting. I want us to look at another conversation also altogether, and that is the pattern in which the Eastern people voted, the Lower Eastern, that is Ukambani. What is your take?
Lower Ukambani, I can tell you, are still diehards of Raila Amolo Odinga. However, there is a factor that made them not to vote in their numbers as they did in the previous times. Kalonzo Musyoka, who leads the Ukambani votes, took too long to be on Raila Amolo's side. And so that costed him a nomination to become the running mate of Raila Amolo Odinga. I know that many people from Lower Eastern side were aggrieved by the fact that their son or the person that they believe in was not given the slot of the running mate. So they voted in protest against Raila Amolo Odinga. However, we still scooped numbers from Ukambani, which is a determining factor in Raila Amolo's election.
Okay, so you actually believe that it's because of Kalonzo.
It's because of Kalonzo, because Kalonzo's lack of immediate commitment made Azimio not to believe in him so much to be the deputy nominated. So that is why Martha Karua was given that position. If Kalonzo Musyoka would have immediately they decided to be in Azimio, didn't turn back and forth, then he was going to be the obvious nominee for the slot of the running mate. So then, because of that, the people from his backyard there, those who didn't see that factor, but they just still believe that this is our son. Whatever thing happened, just give him. But now, if you didn't give him, our protest is we will give the person that you don't, that is facing off with you. So that made all this to happen.
The two issues that I'm learning from what you're saying. Number one is that that Kalonzo Musyoka is the soul and the indomitable, the leader of the Ukambani.
Yes.
That is number one.
Yes.
So, but I'll ask you a question about Charity Ngilu Kivuta Kibwana factor in the presidential contest that you're having. You also have the Senate, the governor of Machakos, that is Alfred Mutua, is stake in all this because he had joined the Kenya Kwanza team coalition. What do you think about it? Another question that I'm asking you is that you've talked about Kalonzo Musyoka being hesitant in joining the Azimio la Umoja, and that could have made him not to be given the chance to be the deputy of Raila immediately. What about the Martha Karua or the Mount Kenya factor in this election? Don't you think it is the reason why Martha Karua was actually given the position?
You know, number one, if we look at the division in the lower eastern bloc, there was going to be voters voting for Azimio without Kalonzo, but still Kalonzo also had people behind him that would make it a full bloc. So his coming to Azimio is an addition which we would have not gotten. Actually, if we were not having Kalonzo, we won't have gotten the full number of lower eastern votes that we had this time. So that also is something that we cannot ignore. And Ngilu and Mutua doesn't have much. In fact, at Mutua's backyard, Kalonzo has supporters who still voted for Azimio. So departure of Alfred Mutua meant nothing big in Azimio's side. But I agree with you that the governors, Ngilu and Kivuta Kibwana, were of also great value, even though that having been backed with Kalonzo Musyoka's presence made it more powerful. And then and this I can say with a lot of confidence, that if Kalonzo Musyoka would have been given the slot instead of Martha Karua, we would have had more votes right now than we have with a Martha Karua factor. So, but Martha Karua has given us, yes, not much votes as was expected, but then also it gave us the percentage that is a requirement by the law. Yeah.
Well, so you think that Azimio have managed to kill maybe two birds with the same stone? Somehow, because that requirement is also very important, which we needed to get from Mount Kenya, but then we have gotten what we needed from the lower eastern. So two birds with one stone, yes. And what about Alfred Mutua moving from Azimio la Umoja to Kenya Kwanza?
It had no consequence at all, because looking at Machakos' contribution to Azimio, then it means that Mutua factor didn't really work well. And I don't think he added any value to the UDA faction.
Mudavadi, Wetangula.
Mudavadi and Wetangula, in fact, I don't think there is anything big that they left us with, because looking at their backyards, how they performed to Azimio, it is almost the same as what they did in the previous elections. So whatever votes that they took with them to UDA, it's almost the same as what they got when Jubilee was facing off with ODM that time. So actually NASA, not ODM, but NASA during that time. Jubilee got even MPs in Western when Wetangula and Mudavadi were there. How comes they didn't stop Jubilee from getting MPs and even MCAs? So then, if I compare those numbers with now, I don't see any effect that they have done.
The undisputable leader or the kingpin of the Western?
Western is still divided, and that is why you see Raila is still the undisputed. If we want to see, if we want to talk about the numbers that come to Raila and the ones that Mudavadi and Wetangula can pull away with them. So if you compare Raila, Mudavadi, and Wetangula, I would tell you without blinking my eyes that Raila would be considered the kingpin of Western votes.
But there are still so many people that voted for Ruto.
And the same,
even in Bungoma.
Yeah, and the same people. If you look at the previous votes with the Jubilee in 2017, it's almost the same number that voted Jubilee. So then it means to me that they didn't. There was no consequence of their leaving.
Okay. Generally, you look at the voting pattern in Western. What is your conclusion?
Western is still a very interesting region in our politics, and there is still need for somebody who is not wavering. You know, if Mudavadi had a very strong chance of being the spokesperson of Western region, but Mudavadi is still swayed, like he doesn't have a specific stand. In fact, I want to compare Moses Mudavadi, Mudavadi with Wycliffe Mudavadi with Kalonzo Musyoka, because if you look at how they are not stable in making up their minds, it's just the same.
So, but is there no difference? Don't we have a difference? Because we have seen that Kalonzo Musyoka went to Azimio. We have seen those who are everyone following him. Most of the people, he has delivered most Kamba votes to the Azimio, unlike in Western, where we had seen Mudavadi not delivering even the 70% threshold given to them by the UDA.
Yeah, they have the same characteristics of not making their stance stable from 1 year to another. But then, looking at the followings, I can say that even though Kalonzo Musyoka is wavering time and again, but he still can bring some number of votes with him. So that is now where Kalonzo Musyoka would be stronger than Wycliffe Mudavadi.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, this is very interesting conversations actually, and thank you so much for being with us in this conversation. I would just want you to make your last remarks, even as we end this conversation tonight on The Insight.
Kenya is still going to be one during and after votings. When the presidential winner, when the winner of the presidential competition arises, please let us know that nobody was brought from a different country to win the presidency. It is a Kenyan son who wins. And so life continues even after our votings. When you didn't win, you can live another day. Actually, like it has been said in the previous after elections, we can move on, we can accept and move on, and life will still continue. We will have another day to contest for a position.
Well,
so don't be angry, but love your neighbor.
There's also a critical question I want to ask you just before we end this conversation. When we started this conversation, you noted that the Mount Kenya people are now rejecting Uhuru Kenyatta. This is his second term. He's going home. Raila Odinga is getting into the presidency. Is there by any chance of us seeing Luos now rejecting Raila at a certain time? Or will Raila have learned something from the Uhuru presidency with Mount Kenya?
Luos will never reject Raila. And I can say that with a lot of confidence. The Luos loving Raila is not conditional. And then, as I have always said, those who perpetrated the rivalry in tribal lines were not Luos. It was done by a Kikuyu elder. And the words that they brought in to discriminate the Luos from their cycle were not put in the Luos' hearts. So that is why if any son of a Kikuyu supports a son of a Luo, he will be rejected. But if any Luos support any Kikuyu, they will never be. And I can give you a brave example. When Kibaki was brought in by Raila to the Luos at some point they were hesitant, but they were convinced later that this is the man that will deliver us from all this that we have been going through. Luos voted for a Kikuyu in a block with every single person standing.
Thank you so much, George, for coming and honoring my invite to this show. And of course, thank you so much for being with us in this conversation, listening to us as we elucidate things and issues around the electoral process 2022. You have made your decision, voting in your leaders. Well, we wish you a peaceful tallying period. Of course, as we wait for the IEBC chairman of Bukati to declare the president-elect. That will be happening maybe this week. We will have known our president. We will have known whether the loser will be going to the Supreme Court or will be conceding defeat. Of course, we hope for a good time, and of course, we hope for a peaceful election period, of course, as we continue even tallying. Well, it has been Eugene Kwach heading this conversation, but of course, it's now time to go and sleep and have some rest. I want to wish you a peaceful night. Well, 21144 is our SMS line at GBS TV Africa at Eugene Ochieng Kwach. Thank you.